first, but we're going to let you.
I'm sorry, lady. Okay. I just want to know where our delegation stands on the fact that we know that the District Grove is coming out for a new city, and of course we have Greenhaven that's looking to become a new city, and we already have a bill in the legislature now. So I just would like to know where each one of you legislators are in terms of that, and have the position changed from where it was last year, and if so, why?
All right, you want all of us to answer the question? One at a time. One at a time. All right, I'll tell you who I am. I sit on the Governmental Affairs Committee, which will actually hear the legislation around Greenhaven or the District Grove if it comes up. I doubt if the District Grove comes up because it hasn't gone through the process yet. There's a 2-year rule in the House that a bill has to be introduced first before we take action on it. Greenhaven was introduced on the last day of the legislative session. We had an opportunity to hear the debate for or against the bill. So I don't know. There are a lot of different things in that particular bill that we need to probably hear from the people that are behind the Greenhaven initiative. I am ready and willing to hear what the debate is going to be. I will make an informed decision once I hear from the different groups about the way we should go with this particular legislation, how it affects the citizens in DeKalb County, how it affects the citizens in my particular legislative district. That is also important to me. So I would hear those things, and at the appropriate time, I will cast the vote that will make the best sense for the citizens of DeKalb County and of House District 83.
I think Howard answered. Mr. Grove's not going anywhere because we never seen a bill, number one. And it's the second year of the session, so it'll be dead at the end of this session. It'll have to be reintroduced again if that's what happens. So I don't think you see anything there. And again, as Howard said, I think it was Representative Mitchell dropped the Greenhead bill the last day of the session. And so it has to go through the House first before it gets to the Senate. I think it's pretty well said, probably most of the people here at the exhaustion thing. I'll see what happens after it goes through the process. But I'm sorry, I'm getting before the defendant answer. That's really where it is.
All right, just so you guys know, we will be having open house for the proposed city in the near future, in about 2 weeks. We'll make sure all of you have notice. Thank you.
Howard.
So a majority of the area that the city is being proposed in for Greenhaven encompasses a lot of the district I represent. I'm still forming my final opinion about Greenhaven. I'm listening. I'm getting a lot of input. I will say it's some of the same voices that I've already heard about this issue. So I'm still taking. I'm still listening to the constituents of the district to see how they feel about Greenhaven. And I'm also on the Governmental Affairs Committee, so it would come through the committee that I sit on along with Howard.
The only thing I'll say about the Greenhaven, I've taken a look at the charter. So I would say, as you all are working through your community activism, that there are some things in that charter that you guys probably need to go on and look at. Now, I have to say that I have not seen a map, so I can't really speak totally like all the boundaries. I've kind of heard bits and pieces, but I would say that's one of the things that I would encourage you guys as you are working and advocating. Go through the charter step by step, and there's some things in there that you guys should probably talk to Representative Mitchell, since he dropped the bill, that there's some things that you guys can probably go on and take care of before we even get a chance to see it. And I would assume that we'll have a hearing or something on it. But because it was dropped the last night, close to midnight, without it, well, I can speak about it myself. Without me seeing it before it was dropped, I couldn't really had a comment, but I did, like I said, go through it, and so after the fact. So take a look at it.
Just in all fairness to Representative Mitchell, the Greenhaven, it was dropped the last night, but it was not new as a map or new as an idea or new as the first time being carried. It is this time that we're going to look at the new charter and we need to discuss it, but the map was basically the same that I saw that night as it was even before then. So we need to, I know But for those of us who had seen it, we need to just get together, look at it, look at the charter, and then decide on what it is for us to do.
Good afternoon, or good evening. I'm Susan Lee. I'm from the city of Stonecrest. I only have one question when I first sat down, but when Darshan Kendrick brought up hands-free, so I have two. Who brought up hands-free?
Hands-free.
Oh, hands-free.
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 Yes.
Oh, I did. I said
Oh, that was you. Okay, sorry. You're Doreen Carter.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm older than her.
Oh, okay.
Let's not talk age up here.
Because I got them both beat, okay? Okay, with the hands-free, you're talking about legislation being passed for the state of Georgia to not have the phones up to your ear and talking?
Yes. So when we were doing So when we had a few hearings around the state, and a couple ideas came up. One was, I think someone has some legislation that's a one-touch, and then the legislation that we got most feedback was hands-free, and basically is not that you can't talk on the phone, but not touching and texting. And one of the things that we were hearing is once the texting law was passed, what officers were starting to see was instead of people driving with their phones like this, they're driving like this, which is even more dangerous. And we just heard story after families losing family members for just, for being on the phone. And they were just showing us how studies, even 3 to 4 seconds, how much a difference that makes when you're driving. So it's really just about being safe. And I have to be honest, I am attached to my phone. And our first hearing was in Warner Robins. I drove from Lithonia to Warner Robins without touching my phone. And I said, oh my. I was impressed with myself. So I said, you really can do it. And nothing really is more important than life than a call. We can't wait for a text or something. So it's going to have some conversations around it because, like I said, we are attached. And then there is some part of the legislation they were looking at some more training for the young folk. Because if you think about it, most of the millennials, they were born with phones. So they never had life without a phone. So there's a lot of things that we're going to have to do from a training and educating and just really like.
Okay, just a minute.
No.
What I'd like to, just hold on. What I would like to do is I would like to know when you're going to have the meetings or whatever in this area. I'm a person that was, my town and country van was totaled by a PT Cruiser from someone that was, the young lady that was texting. I'm in pain right now. This happened Halloween. So she has really messed my life up right now because she was texting. I know she was. 285, we were stopped, and she slammed into my town and country.
Yes.
Totaled it. So I want to get with you and know when you're going to have something, because I want to stand up and tell them, I'm a survivor.
Gotcha. So we're, as far as the study committee is concerned, we've done those meetings, but once the, we don't have our final report out there, we should finish that for the end of the year, and I can share that. And then once the legislation is drafted in there, and if it gets out of, if it gets the signatures and it make it to a hearing in committee, which we think it will, let's make sure that you and I stay connected, and we can invite you to be one of the folks that testify.
Okay. And don't use the word if, it's when.
Yes, ma'am. When?
Yes.
Ma'am, I must say that we had hoped that this bill would have taken effect many years ago. I introduced the bill, I think in 2006, and free.
That long ago?
Yes, ma'am. I was the first person that did that. And in New York City and several other states have the bill in effect, and they're very strict. So, unfortunately, I did not get a hearing. And I asked for one. So, 2006, we could have moved this forward, and you would not be in your pain. So, I must say, I myself, I pushed it as much as I could. So, I apologize for your pain.
Thank you.
And let me say something else which came out, which was interesting. They were saying that the texting has gone down, but what's happening is the folk are live streaming, they're Snapchatting, so it's more the data. So the legislation hasn't really kept up with what folk are doing. So that's what we're trying to address. And thank you for getting done this year.
Let him go first and get back on.
Good evening, my name is David Dowdell, and I live in the Lithonia area, and I'm here about the Green Haven, city of Green Haven. Many of my neighbors are elderly neighbors. They've been there a long time, and they're concerned about how the city of Green Haven, how would it impact them tax-wise. A lot of us are retired. You know, we don't have these jobs. We're living on a fixed income. And for them to go through with this Green Haven proposal, it may very well affect us financially. So I like to find out about that as much because there's a large constituent of people that are against it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And we are highly interested also in the effect of Green Haven on the tax base of unincorporated DeKalb, or the area that's going to be affected by the annexation, and the areas that won't be also will have some effect to them. If they don't ever become a city, they will still be an unincorporated DeKalb County. It will have some effect on them too. So we'll be interested in hearing all of how the debate, when it unfolds, how we would hear about how it affects the entire county. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good. You got more.
Good evening, everybody. My name is John Evans. I'm with Operations Lead. The first item I want to know, is anybody carrying any model legislation from the DeKalb delegation? Is it already in or what? Does anybody intend to carry any model legislation?
So what we're going to do is sit down and try to come up with a plan for DeKalb County moving forward. We're going to work with our elected officials, our county commissioners, and the CEO to come up with a plan that we can shepherd down to the General Assembly. Now, what we can't do is go down there and have different plans. So if I want to see MARTA go in a certain direction or transit go in a certain direction, and the county commission or the CEO doesn't want to see it go in that direction, we can't be down in the confusion. So we need to make sure that we're on the same sheet of paper.
Hey, John, to answer one thing along those lines of the House has done a study committee on it, the Senate sent a bill over. There's a bill for regional governance of all of transit, including MARTA and Cobb County Transit, you know, et cetera. Okay, what that's about is by having regional governance, that's the only way that I believe that the state will ever get in the game of giving us money. If the state's got some say in regional governance for all the various transit areas, then the state can put some money. That's been my biggest complaint over the years. Now, Clayton's been coming out lately, but Fulton and DeKalb, we've been picking up the tab for everybody. You go out here to your MARTA stations, you go through the parking lots like I have, there's a lot of license plates besides Fulton and DeKalb sitting in those parking lots. And I think a lot of us have had enough of that. But I believe there'll be something going forward when people in the mountains, in the Senate, and people like Speaker Ralston say, we've got to do something. Maybe it's finally time we get our act together.
But to answer your question directly, though, we in DeKalb County, we want to make sure that our interests are looked out for. We look at a governance, the transit governance structure, and they want to talk about the metro region as a whole. That really doesn't still deal with what's happening in DeKalb County. And that's what we want to make sure that we are on the same sheet of paper about.
Well, one of the things I'd like to say, we went to a meeting at Lou Walker Senior Citizen Center, and they're throwing maps around, and everybody seems to be working in a different direction. What I'd like to see is that's what you talked about. The delegation can provide some leadership so that we can come up with at least one sensible plan, because they've been ripping us off by all the dispersion.
Correct.
And I hope, is anybody going to carry it? I mean, I'd like to see somebody carry the legislation.
Oh yeah, when we come up with a plan,
Yeah.
I'll carry it. But we will all
Good.
deal with it. But
John.
it is going to be something that we will bring forward.
John,
Quickly, I'm gonna.
Yeah, you got
Yeah,
it.
go ahead.
you're looking at the policymakers up here. So the votes are up here. So stick with the votes. Because you know and I know that we have taught, and I'm for hard rail. I've always been for hard rail, and I always will be. But your policymakers are up here. These are your votes up here. Stick with your votes.
Well,
We just need to know that people are going to do it. It's been flying around for 30 years. That's unfortunate.
right.
I've been running that game for 30 years. And every time they trick us, take advantage of all of our mess and not being together, I mean, we just got to do it if we're going to get it. They talking about, well, we're not developing anything on I-20. Well, I've been knowing that for 20 years. See, and they just play games with us. We got to stop that. I appreciate it. Are we going to deal with the new form of government in DeKalb this year? Is anybody proposing it, talking about it? Where we're going? You think we?
So what we're going to do this year, probably early in the session, is pass the charter bill that the charter review bill that we were trying to push forward at the last day of the session. Kind of got a little bit of confusion there. Talking with the CEO and some of my colleagues that we just need to get that done early in the session, get that out, and let the commission be put together and start deliberating process about what the DeKalb charter needs to look like, from the CEO down to how trash is collected in the county. But we need to have a 21st century document that we're operating from, and not a 1989 document.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm ready for my second question. Speaking of charter, you just came right in on time. Again, I'm from the city of Stonecrest, and my voters up there, you guys who do this, vote yes to change the charter back to the original so we can pay our mayor a fair wage for equal or fair work, because he's doing a fantastic job. We want to keep him. We don't need somebody making peanuts trying to make big time decisions. And when Amazon comes here, you guys can say, hey, I helped do that by giving the mayor of Stonecrest a fair wage. Thank you.
Steve?
Yes, Steve Benny. Just a quick question for Mr. Miller. Since you're involved with the health, is Georgia going to be taking the federal money from Obama, Trump Care, whatever you want to call it? And Mr. Mosby,
Yes, sir.
the audit committee in DeKalb County has been without a member for 3 to 4 months. Your office has not appointed someone to that. Is that going to happen anytime soon?
It will. I met with the chairman about 3 weeks ago to discuss how we want to move forward with that. I want to make sure that we didn't do anything that could actually disrupt the process of that committee moving forward. And so I actually asked for them to bring me back some recommendations before we just sat down and just threw somebody out there. So we wanted to make this a deliberative process.
Well, as long as you're working on it, because it's been a vacant seat for a while.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
Thank
To
you.
answer your question, the biggest issue we've got in the state is the uninsured. Pure and simple. When you got over 500,000 people uninsured. And I do believe that you're going to see some legislation come forward this year. There's been study committees. We've given up on Washington. I will tell you that when people have complained about Obamacare for 7 or 8 years and they go up to Washington and do not have an alternative, that's pathetic. Okay? And I'm talking about my party, the Republican Party. So we've pretty well given up on them at this point, and I think there are going to be some things going forward. Yes, I think we've got to expand Medicaid in some forms. I mean, right now we're worried about having medical coverage for our kids because they haven't dealt with the peach care type situation. So it's been very disappointing. It's the biggest failing. And quite frankly, if you just look at the election in the state of Virginia, you had 2 factors of why it turned the way it did to the advantage of the Democratic Party. Anti-Trump, but more so than that, health care. you know, when we've got people in South Georgia that their health care premiums are more than their mortgages, if you don't think that's a problem, you're a friggin' idiot. Okay, so obviously we've got to do something.
The hospitals are getting farther apart.
Yeah, well, that's true too. And again, I will say this, also, they're also what's cutting off, I'm going to use the acronym, and I hate to use it, Howard can spell it all out, called dish payments, where we would get money from the feds for the indigent, i.e. a Grady. And they're going to lose how much, Howard?
Statewide, about $40 million.
$40 million because the feds are discontinuing those payments. And you know, when people say, well, look, your revenues are going to be up $1 billion, when you stop and think about the money we've got to put into health care, and we've also got large enrollment increases, okay, and these other issues, it's pretty easy to spend $1 billion. I can show you pretty quick in about 5 minutes how we can get there without doing anything new. So to answer your question, yes, I'm hopeful we're going to finally do something soon.
Thank y'all, folks.
I'm Claudette Levy, and I'm a member of Concerned Citizens in Opposition to Greenhaven. For those of you who have not read it, we have read all 60-plus pages. We read the feasibility study, and that legislation is flawed. So you're looking at the creation of a city that will take up 57% of an unincorporated DeKalb County, or what's left of it, with no indication as to the impact on the remaining 43%. Nobody knows how they came up with their numbers, but the proponents have already said publicly that one of the reasons that they proposed the city with 300,000 residents is because that's the only way the feasibility study could work. Okay? And the comparisons in there that says that this city would be viable, take a look at page 4 of their feasibility study, which compared it, did a comparison. First of all, it said there's no other city in the United States of America that Carl Vinson Institute could compare to this proposed city. What they ended up doing was comparing it to, have you ever heard of Peachtree Corners in Gwinnett County? The disparities between the demographics are ridiculous. We're talking 126 square miles. Peachtree Corners is 17-point-something square miles. And if you look at the demographics on the income levels, you're looking at 41,000 for the proposed city and 94 for Peachtree Corners. Now, if that comparison makes sense to you, then I got some lake property to sell. But the problem is also they are hyping economic development as the reason for their viability. They have a 4-page, and we've read that as well, a 4-page economic development plan. It read more like a concept than there's no data in there to support what they plan to do. And our mission out here is threefold. One, we want to defeat it in the committee. HB 644, we're very clear. Defeat it in the committee. The opposition is growing on this in this community, and how do we know? Because we're out there meeting with homeowner groups and other opposition groups opposing this legislation. Our third point that we want to make is that a lot of times, nobody has time but somebody like me who's able to read a 64-page report with a fine print. But we want to educate the public. And I will share with you, every time we meet with these homeowners associations, they are totally against it. So just know that there is opposition. It is growing. That legislation is flawed. And as far as we're concerned, so was the feasibility study. If you're comparing Greenhaven with 300,000 people to Peachtree Corners. So we expect that there will be a defeat on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Who paid for the study? Who paid for the study?
I don't know.
You get what you pay for.
Excuse me, but that's not quite correct.
I just asked
Who
a
paid
question.
for the study are
Who paid for the
residents.
study?
So please don't make fun of us who paid
I'm
for the
not
study.
making fun of anyone. I just asked a question.
Yes. So
Who paid for the study?
Don't make fun of us.
Who paid for the study?
We did. I put money in the study. A lot of people put money in the study.
We'll let everyone have a chance to speak, so thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, everybody, and thank you all for coming in the neighborhood. especially I'm sorry for such a rainy night. I'm glad my commissioner's here as well. My name is Terry Ali, and I'm the president of Spring Valley Civic Association. Spring Valley Civic Association is right street and around the corner. We're not a homeowners association, although we have about 200 some homes. But our voluntary membership is above 90. People pay every year to be a part. And we meet quarterly. And at a meeting in the first quarter, it was raised by some of our residents about Greenhaven. And it was unanimously opposed. And that was because we raised several questions that were answered from various people. We didn't have any political agenda, we just wanted to understand more. There wasn't a lot of information out there to find out what's going on, except for we knew that some people were for it. And we, being the president, they said, well, how about we start having meetings? And one of our residents had a meeting really around her kitchen table. And I think maybe 8 of us were here and there, and I'm looking at one of my neighbors now. But it was in raising the questions that we formed this a better understanding. And yes, we are trying to oppose it, even going to vote, because just like this, all these seats are not filled. Same way when it comes to voting, it's hard for residents sometimes to understand political agendas. And it's scary, actually, for some things to come up to vote that people really have not been informed and they really don't know what decision they're making. Now, on the other flip side, I just want to ask you about SPLOST and so many things that are coming down the wire, because I don't want to make this all about Greenhaven. We all want a better life. We want our kids to be safe walking to school. We want our kids to be able to be employed. I mean, we got issues over here, you all. We have too many storefronts that are empty. So I understand what's motivating a lot of the thinking around this. And I'm hoping as a community we can begin to solve how do we begin to create more economic stability. And I'm looking forward to, you know, ideas, not just, well, ideas that might help us in that direction, okay? And anything you want to give us on that.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Nothing on economic development, Joe?
You started out talking about the SPLOST. Did you have a question on that?
Yes, and yes, if you could start with that.
Yeah, okay, that's fair enough.
Kind of
I think CEO Thurman, and I worked with him. I think he worked in legislation. I think what you're seeing, the biggest issue we've got in DeKalb County is transportation. And about 85% of the funds in the SPLOST are allocated to transportation. And then after that, we have public safety, which is police and fire and their vehicles and such. And there's maybe about $9 million, I think, out of the $60 million, which goes to capital repairs. The thing where DeKalb has been punished is because we're the people that have paid for MARTA, paid for Grady, and now, right now the county gets about $2 to $2.5 million a year for capital improvements. Well, good luck with that. They now will get $60 million a year going forward. So I'm optimistic. There's also going to be, I think CEO Levitan made the suggestion, and I think CEO Thurman has agreed with it, that there will be a citizen oversight committee because there's still a trust element out there. I applaud the commissioners for what they've tried to do, and also the various cities. And we'll get all these people together in one room and actually work something out. How unique is DeKalb, right? So anyway, I'm optimistic that we are moving forward, and I think hopefully there'll be some good things happen out of it. But again, there'll be projects and project lists, and each of your commissioners will be able to tell you specifically where you live, what's going to be in your particular area.
Hi, my name is Julius Lee, and some of you folks, you know, I'm a senior citizen, and you might look at me and say, well, you're not a senior citizen. I am, okay? And I am extremely proud of being a resident of DeKalb County, as well as the Stonecrest, new city of Stonecrest. And my wife spoke, she was the first one that spoke, okay? And she asked for your support of our mayor and his effort and our city council, as well as all of the staff that's working to help our new city, you know, start off by running, not just walking. I know that you have seen a lot of the advantages and achievements that our mayor has made in a very, very short time. And we're a family. We're a part of, and we're not going to be separated from DeKalb County, nor Georgia. One of the things my mayor said is that he wanted a world-class city. And you know, you might laugh at that, but I'm not laughing at that. I believe in that. And I believe if we can keep a vision like that in front of us, we're going to be moving in the right direction. Not just Stonecrest, but the district as well as the state of Georgia. We're going to, you know, we're already a great city and a great state, but we're going to be greater if we can support that effort in making us and helping us become the world-class city that we envision ourselves to. And how do you do that is your vote. You need to support our mayor and our city council in terms of revising the charter that we have. And we need not a part-time mayor, we need a full-time mayor. Now the vision was, when they started it, was a full-time mayor at a certain salary range. And I support that.
To be fair, sir, he was not envisioned as a full-time mayor. We have no mayors that are full-time in DeKalb County.
Okay, well, I stand corrected. But I'm saying too, that, you know, we got to move out of the box and just not do everything that has been done the way it has been done if we're going to become a world-class city. Otherwise, we're going to be the same old same and never advance to the level that we want to advance. So I'm just asking for your support in terms of considering us as we, you know, are making the request of having the charter approved as the way it is proposed by our city council as well as our mayor. Thank you for your consideration, and that's my statement.
Thank you.
And so, thank you for your comments, and I represent a small portion of the city of Stonecrest. I think it's 5 of us that represent the city. So, 6. You know, I am personally committed to making sure that the city of Stonecrest, you know, thrives. Now, what that means in terms of the charter, obviously we need to take a look at it and make sure that it's in the interests of the people that are served here. But I will say that I am very, very supportive of the city of Stonecrest, and I just had a meeting with a nice lunch with your mayor, Jason Larry, who's there in the back way. Jason, we all see you. So I'm excited about the city of Stonecrest, really, and about the opportunities that are there. So let's just keep the conversation going, and thank you so much for your comments.
So one of the things that a lot of people may not know, I personally, probably the last 10 years have worked diligently on efforts that really have brought that area to a point where we can be able to do some economic development. You know, we started the Stonecrest Business Alliance, we did the CID, we did the Stonecrest LCI, and so we are supportive. I mean, we live in that area, so of course we wanted to thrive. So one of the things that has not happened, now we've seen you guys' emails, and but one of the things that has not happened is a meeting. And so one of the things I've recommended to several of the councilmen, I think I even mentioned to the mayor, one of the things that I would recommend is the mayor and the city council bring their legislative agenda to the body. So, I mean, our Rockdale delegation does it, the DeKalb School Board, Rockdale School Board does it. Even, I think we're even having a meeting with the DeKalb commissioners. So one of those things has happened. Now, the other thing that has gotten a little muddy is once the city is formed, you are an autonomous entity. Meaning you have something called home rule, and there's laws that are set around what you could do as a city. So we have to address some of the concerns within the charter, and I have seen some of the proposals, and there are some other things that need to be addressed in the charter. But there are some things that the city can take care of, and there are some things that the law mandates that we do. But I think what we really should do, so so that a lot of the stuff that's in the atmosphere that we can kind of squash that, let's just sit down and reason together. And I think if we do more sitting down, talking to each other, then we will have less of some of this stuff that's going on. You got one group saying go do this, one group saying go do that, and actually some of the things that you guys have emailed us about by law, we can't do. And you all don't know that, so I think we all really need to just sit down together, because we all benefit. When this East Metro corridor is developed, we all benefit. So we don't want you guys think that we don't support, we do, but there are just certain things that we can, we can't. But I think we all need to sit down together, break bread together.
Thank you. Dr. Rice.
Hello, everyone. To our elected officials in the state, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to us and our comments and what we have to say. Let me first say to everyone here, my name is Catherine Rice. I am the chair of the Concerned Citizens for Cityhood of South DeKalb. Anyone here who feels that they have not gotten information on Greenhaven, see me. I have a card to give you, and we will give our time to you. So let me make that clear. I want to make a comment, and then I'd like to ask you 2 questions. The first comment is I want to support what John Evans said, which is that we would love to have rail down I-20, and we hope that we have your support for it. It doesn't matter to us whether it's heavy rail or light rail. As long as it's not bus, make it rail. But that is one of the things that we are fighting for. So thank you for speaking up on that, John. In terms of cityhood, we started Greenhaven, CCCSD, the Concerned Citizens for Cityhood of South DeKalb. And I was just going to ask my questions, but I have to correct some of the things that were said here. Please do your homework. Go read that plan that she told you about. Take the time, like she did, to read that plan. It was done by the University of Georgia Carl Vinson Institute that did almost all the other studies that have been done thus far. It is a requirement that the state legislature created, that you have to find a body, and there are only 2 bodies you can use. One is Carl Vinson Institute, or University of Georgia, the other is Georgia State University. And they compared us, and that's how they do their study. They take comparable either cities, and in our case, they took counties. So there's a number of cities and a number of counties that they compared us to. There are 2 things I'd like to ask of you. One is we have requested year after year to do a presentation before you. And continuously, you have not given us the opportunity to give you all a presentation. We went 1 year, and we asked the secretary week after week. I can personally attest to that. And still, you did not give us the opportunity to present to you. So when you get questions like this from people, it's hard for you to answer because you haven't actually heard what we have to say. And I think we can address many of the issues that are brought up here. So I will make the request again publicly that please give us the opportunity for something that's going to affect a lot of people that you represent. Give us the opportunity to present to you. That's question number 1. Question number 2 is this issue about the vote. You heard one of our opponents, and I got to tell you, some of the information they put out there is misleading or incorrect. One example is you pay double taxes for the same service. So if you're in the county and if you form a city, then you're going to pay twice for a service that you get. We had to bring the tax commissioner down to a meeting of ours to refute that. We will put that on our website. But please take that out. So for you all that have voted, did you all have a proponent of Greenhaven there to help you understand what the other side of the story may be? Please do that.
Yeah, we did.
In terms of the second request that I have, has to do with the right to vote. The only people who have not had an opportunity to vote on cityhood in DeKalb County are the residents of South DeKalb. Even if you oppose cityhood, we all should have the right to vote. We've got a group, I think they're calling themselves Vista Grove, is that right? Frank?
Yes, but I've never met with them. They just come up with this concept as far as I've never met them anyway.
Well, I can tell you they've made headway. They've started their study. They will be voting on cityhood for the second time. We fought for the right to vote. Why is it that we shouldn't get the right to vote. If you feel so strongly this city shouldn't happen, fight against it. Put your arguments out there, but give us the right to vote on it. And that is what I ask of you all for my second question, for you all to support our right to vote. If you don't think cityhood should happen, that's fine. But give the people the right to vote on it. And let us make each side our arguments for or against.
So here's what I want to say, because one of the things that is disturbing to me is when we don't clearly communicate. Now, this past session, was it this session? Last session. This past session, 2017, we were on the House floor in the rules calendar, and I keep saying that. It wasn't the last session.
It was session 4.
No, it was okay. So anyway, the point is what happened. Yeah, you're right, because that's when you dropped the last. So what happened, and you know this, and I wish you guys would tell the truth. You all had a special hearing on Greenhaven. The chairman of the committee, what's his name? Reiner, went to the well and said, if you care anything about DeKalb County, meet us in room 2, whatever it was. We all left the floor. And I just need you guys to understand the significance of that, because we were voting on legislation. Your DeKalb County delegation left the floor because we thought it was that important, and we went down to the room. We didn't know at the time what we were going for, but I should say I didn't know what I was going for, but he mentioned DeKalb, and I thought I needed to be in the room. And one of the issues that was brought up was Greenhaven. And I think you guys, you understand there's legislation that's dropped, and in order for the legislation to move from one place to the other, you have to have a hearing. Well, Janice Van Ness was in office at the time, and she was the one carrying the bill from the Senate side. Well, it initiated the Senate. She would not come to the hearing. You were not there, and what they told us, in your defense, is you were in the car accident. Well, it started in the House with the Senate, but that piece, because it already passed in the House or something was going on, it was the Senate, because I think, anyway, the point of the matter is there was a hearing, and had someone come to the hearing, and if that committee had voted, it would have come out of committee. So for you guys to keep saying that we haven't given you the opportunity to vote, that is not true. If someone had been there to speak on the bill, because we were there, and that's what really happened. Now, this session is, you're right, because it got dropped the last night, and you guys know that. So please stop saying that we're not giving you an opportunity to vote. And because if the person who was there to speak on the bill would have been there, it probably would have come out of committee.
So let me say something to that. First of all, the first thing you said was that I wish you all would tell the truth. Please don't say that.
Just about that one situation.
Even about that one situation, let me clarify for the record, is that we were at the Capitol all day long. Another bill was going on at the same time, which was the bill to privatize the schools, or turn the schools over to the governor. We stayed at that bill, and they kept moving the bill. Now, we are not legislators. We don't know the system like you do. So we stayed, they changed the time. We stayed, they changed the time. We stayed, they changed the time. We went to go get something to eat, thinking it was going to be late in the evening. While we were out, they went ahead and voted on the bill.
No, they didn't vote.
I'm sorry, they didn't vote on the bill. They went ahead and introduced the bill, and the person who was representing us, Janice Van Ness from the Senate, was not there. She said she didn't know either. Now that's what she said. So please don't say that we didn't tell the truth about us not getting a vote. We didn't get a vote on it, that's the truth.
But the we.
And we tried. So let's make that clear. Please don't say we don't tell the truth. We pride ourselves on telling the truth.
All right. Thank you. And I want to make sure that we all get an opportunity to speak. So we've got about another hour in this, and I know that we have a number of people in line. So if we can keep our answers short, to the point, we can keep the questions short to the point, we can probably get everybody through this process.
That was very helpful, though. That was very helpful.
Mr. Chairman, members of the delegation, thank you all very much for providing us this opportunity. I have a letter I'd like to present to you. If you could ensure that members of the delegation receive that letter. And essentially, the purpose of the letter is to ask that you defeat. The purpose of the letter is to ask that you defeat HB 644, and these are the reasons why. HB 644 covers an area, given the map, and there's a map, ma'am, that's 78 Stone Mountain Freeway, down to Henry County line, Ellenwood. On the west, it goes to Moreland Avenue, Inman Park, and on the east, Snapfinger Woods Drive over to Stonecrest. That is over 225 square miles for a population of 300,000 people. To propose a city with 3 core service delivery functions: planning and development, code enforcement, and parks. That is ludicrous. I worked in planning and development for over 40 years, the city of Seattle and the city of Atlanta. And I lobbied in the General Assembly for 13. So I'm very familiar with this process. And I do know when it comes to this issue of taxes and service fees and contracting, when a city is created, if you have 3 core service delivery functions, all municipal service delivery functions will then become contracted. So sanitation, police, fire, water, all of that you receive from DeKalb County now, you will receive it from DeKalb County at a contract fee. So Dr. Rice is wrong. When it comes to these services, you pay extra because you are now autonomous and you have home rule and you're responsible. All the county functions that cannot be done by a city, Superior Court, Health Department, all those basic functions that a county, well, think of all the major functions that a county provides, the marshal, the sheriff. That has to be done in the courts. That has to be going to pay for that separate, even though if you're a new city. Now, my purpose is this, to say that economic development, we all want quality economic development in DeKalb County. Economic development generally will not come from planning and development. I've worked in planning and development for 40 years. Planning and development is simply the foundation, the platform for good community, wholesome living. It is not the primary tools you use for that. The primary tools you use for economic development, first of all, you have to have a highly skilled and highly educated workforce and a school system that's going to attract industry. That's the first thing you have to have. Then you have to have a wholesome quality living environment that's clean. Because if you're going to bring economic development to an area we would like to have it, the executives want to live close to work. And they want to come to an area that's clean, safe, and viable. They don't want to come to an area that's not that. And I'm not saying anything against South DeKalb, but let's be truthful about this. And you also have to have the economic tools and incentives, the revenue kind of tools to attract economic development. You start a new city with planning and development, code enforcement, parks and rec. Do you realize all that's going to be is a signing of a lawyer, those functions that DeKalb County now provides? That's all it'll do. It's just a transfer of those functions. And they will not bring economic development in and of themselves. So I'm simply saying to you that you have to have the infrastructure. You speak about transit down I-20. I worked at MARTA for years, and a lot of you know me for that. $200 million a mile for heavy rail. Now, $200 million a mile for 1 mile of heavy rail. Now, I live in South DeKalb in Spring Valley. I use MARTA. I still use the bus and the rail. You're not going to get it until you get reverse commute. You got to have reverse commute. Reverse commute means you got to have heavy north-south traffic generally most of the day. And hopefully maybe we might get it one day. But you can't justify even light rail unless you have people riding that system throughout the day. The federal government is not going to give us money to have empty trains right up down I-20. We got to deal with reality here. And the other point for economic development, we got to have essentially the kind of marketing strategy that's recognized globally to bring like Amazon. You don't do it with a quick fix. You don't call it a name and say Amazon's going to come. Let's be real. Let's be open to people. Let's stop deceiving ourselves. And the reason why this is so critical is because an area, think about it now, Stone Mountain Freeway to Ellenwood, Henry County line, Moreland Avenue, Inman Park, and that's where the DeKalb County boundaries are. This is where these boundaries go. Over to Snapfinger Woods, over to Stonecrest boundaries. Most of the people that live in these areas are mature.
Yes.
And these service fees, taxes, we're going to continue to pay DeKalb County taxes for the DeKalb County functions that we cannot transfer. And when it comes to the right to vote, we have to follow the process, and the process is that you lay it out. But I don't want us to be deceived as people. And trust me, if there were you sit in Greenhaven, given that scale, the area would be transformed quickly into high-density housing, and people won't be able to afford to live here. We got to be careful about this. This is not something that's quantifiable. This is serious. And when you deal with people, you deal with Stonecrest, these are small-sized communities. But 125 square miles? The city of Atlanta is 140 square miles. And the population of the city of Atlanta is no more than 450,000. So you're going to create a city to do planning and development, code enforcement, parking and rec? Please. Thank you.
Do me a favor, don't move up to Dublin because I think I'm going to lose my job after that.
Howard, can I take a few minutes, please? And I just want to take a personal privilege and not interrupt the meeting itself, but I just want to let the group know that, you know, DeKalb County, when you look at DeKalb County is the shape of Georgia. Have anybody looked at that? I love DeKalb County. I love Georgia. But I'm not about to take a stand to interrupt the goodness that has been done in DeKalb County. And with that being said, Howard, we do have a friend of mine in the audience, and that is Congressman Barrow. Congressman Barrow, would you stand up, please?
Hey there.
Hey, my friend.
Thank you. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you, Howard.
My name is Michelle Emmanuel. I was part of the Governor's Commission. I was part of the Governor's Commission for the City of Stonecrest. And I wanted to come to you today and talk to you about some of the changes to the charter. We need to make those changes. You guys have seen it and you've heard it ad nauseum. I'm not going to reiterate it. But I do want to speak on behalf of the job of the mayor and council. I think a lot of people are making it personal. And although Jason Larry is a friend of mine, the bottom line is he's done an amazing job. And he's done it for $20,000. And it's less than minimum wage, okay? And everybody's talking about public servants, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is, if regular people cannot do the job and get a livable wage, we're going to get D.C., okay? We're going to get what's going on in Washington, D.C., and then that tax bill. The bottom line is regular people need to be able to come out and do things that are going to move our community forward. They need to be paid a fair wage. You don't want somebody who, after Mayor Larry leaves, that you get somebody who's not going to take the job or take it, and then they run the risk of possibly being bribed because they're not making enough money to do the job that they were hired to do or elected to do. So the bottom line is we need somebody who is going to be able to continue to move our community forward. It's an innovative place. I know a lot of people are not, excited about this whole city of Amazon, but we got international attention. This little small area in South DeKalb County got international attention. And even if we don't get Amazon, guess what? There are going to be a bunch of companies that say, I remember them because they made that proposal. So don't sleep on innovation. Innovation is what's moving us forward in the 21st century. And what it does is it encourages our young people, our millennials, to get involved because they don't have the same concerns that you or I do. And, I have a young son, and he was telling me about all these ideas he had for Snapchat, for Stonecrest. Same thing with a whole bunch of other millennials that live in the area. So, I understand the concern, I understand change is hard, but the reality is that's the only constant in life. So we need to suck it up and do the right thing and make sure that we're consistently moving forward and make our, not just Stonecrest, but it's kind of like a coal, right? If Stonecrest is doing well, the state of Georgia is going to do well. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question before I have to leave? So you might have heard that there is a study committee, I guess, that just finished about raising the pay of legislators. So I just thought it would be interesting to see by a show of hands of how many people think that legislators would get 841. By a show of hands, how
70,000. How much did they
Take it from 17,000 to 29,000.
29. So by show of hands, how many people would support that raise for legislators?
I would support that.
State legislators?
Yes, state legislators.
29,000?
No.
Yeah, so the study committee would take our pay from 17,841 or whatever it is to 29,000. How many people would?
It depends.
Well, how can you set that?
I'm retired. I have nothing to do with that.
Howard, one thing, folks, you got to understand something. When we talk about a salary increase for the mayor, understand this. When somebody said earlier, we have something called home rule. The legislature does not determine the salary of the mayor going forward.
Thank you.
Okay, first of all, that's the first point. Now I will say this. Perhaps some legislators, like myself, aren't real happy about the proposed raise, but that doesn't matter. The city council will determine if they want to give their mayor a raise. That's totally separate from the things that will come through the charter. So everybody understand that, okay? That we up here do not determine the mayor of Stonecrest or the mayor of Decatur or the mayor of Brookhaven's salary.
Okay. You know, I kind of take issue with that remark about Washington, D.C. because I know many of you know I've had to work in Washington, D.C. for a while. And if we were like Washington, D.C., we'd be a whole lot better off, trust me. I brought these to show you. These are my transportation cards. This one happens to be from D.C. This one is from L.A. And this one is from Los Angeles, and then I have my MARTA card. I left my New York card and my Chicago cards with my passport. But here is what I want to say. The first thing I want you to understand is that we do need public transportation out here. We need transportation that goes from place A to place B. Now, if you want to see a transportation system that goes all the way throughout and all through the city, then you need to look at Los Angeles. Los Angeles transportation consists of a train that goes from the highest end of the area all the way down through Watts into Long Beach. And every area that it's gone through has prospered. They have a series of mini buses called dash buses, which are 50 cents. They prosper, they do well. I moved here in 1979. Back then, I was told that MARTA was coming to Stonecrest. That was one of the things that the realtor told me that got me to move here, because as a New Yorker and as an LA resident, I knew about public transportation. So I'm very concerned that we keep hearing this story about why MARTA can't come. I don't care how much it costs. That ain't my problem, because for 38 years I have paid that extra penny. So whatever they have to pay, they should have thought about that when they ran that little trolley to nowhere and spent all that money. So that's what I got to say on MARTA. Now, with regard to the salary, I was going to bring up your salary. You guys have to cover an area. You have to handle state business. You make 17, whatever it is. You're trying to get up to 29. I say that's fine. But I look at, and as many of you know, I was the criminal justice chairwoman for the people, for the Georgia Committee for the People's Agenda. And I was that for years. That entire time, you can ask Dr. Lowry, you can ask Helen Butler, I did not receive one dime, because that was my community service. Everything I did from Marcus Dixon to Gennaro Wilson, I did without receiving one dime, without receiving anything. Now, I understand that people need to get paid, but people knew what the salary was when they took the job. People knew what the duties were when they took the job. Most importantly, we are looking at a city where I just got notified that they're now going to put all these franchise fees on us. These franchise fees, when they were first discussed, I think many of us thought that they were already being paid and they were just going to be transferred. But so far, I've gotten it from DirecTV, I've gotten it from snapping shows, I'm getting ready to get it from the gas company, I'm getting ready to get it from everybody. And it's going to add up to more than if I would have paid a tax increase. Plus, they just allow me to put it on the bank accounts. Luckily, I have a credit union, so I don't have to pay that. But my thing is, we need to go slowly with this. We need to see what's going to happen. We've heard a lot of promises. With regard to Amazon,
I happen to have been in Chicago when the story came up, and I'd like to correct these people who said it made national news. It did, but it made it in that section, unfortunately, where they do the joke story. You know, where they do the story that's last, and they say, here's what happened, and it's funny. That is how the Chicago media handled it. I can tell you what Chicago did because I sat in Chicago for 3 days, so I know what was going on. Now, they may want a raise, they may want to get a raise, but like you said, we have home rule. All the council has to do is say, we want to pay the mayor $85,000. The only problem with that is it will go to the next mayor. It will not go to this mayor, and that is right, that is fair. Then maybe we'll get somebody that'll come in, that'll have some things, and we can have a bigger choice. But my thing is, I have a serious problem with people who take a job and then say that they want a 350% raise. Now, you are government employees. You work for the people. You know that state employees, from state troopers all the way down. I'm a retired police sergeant, so I can tell you. You have to wait 6 months before you can even think about getting a raise in the private sector. And most of the time, that raise is less than 10%. In the public sector, state, federal, local, you get about 5%. So I'm encouraging you. We can hear all of these things about what are going to happen. But I've been in Stonecrest, I've been in this area over 38 years, and it pretty much looks the same. So I'm saying, hold off, don't let nobody blow smoke at you and try to tell you there's no fire.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Al Franklin. I appreciate Mr. Miller clarifying for everyone, I guess, in regards to what your role is in regards to the Stonecrest Mayor situation. I am an advocate of it. I support it, and I hope that our city representatives will consider supporting it, since they do have a level of influence in our area. I have served as city councilman. I've served as mayor pro tem. I currently chair a local downtown development authority inside of Lithonia. So I've seen uniquely the role that mayors have, and I've seen what a part-time situation can look like. I know what it was like in our city when we had 3 years of audits that were behind. 4, if they for clarity, we both served together. So 4 years of audits behind with a part-time mayor, because not that the mayor didn't necessarily care, the mayor didn't try to take care of everything and responsibilities, it's just that it's hard to balance with a full-time job and then come over and do it on a part-time basis and then try to take care of all the role that it takes in regards to being a mayor. So I'm supportive of that. My unique role in regards to Stonecrest is I handle the marketing side of it from a social media standpoint. So when everyone was saying no to Stonecrest, my digital marketing agency got a lot of people to say yes in a unique way and put a solid message out that encouraged people to come out and vote in big numbers. So I'm definitely an advocate of it even from the grassroots level, and certainly in regards to the salary, and hopefully, I'm not saying what the numbers should be, I'm just saying I think it should be a full-time role.
Got it. Thank you, sir.
DeKalb County for the last 3.5 years. Let me start off by saying that there's truth on both sides, and there has been some mistruths on both sides, but more mistruths on the proponent side than it has been on the people who oppose the cityhood effort. Now, what's amazing to me is that you look at the size of this audience tonight.
Right.
See, I tell people to look around you. It's not nothing I have to say or make up. If you're trying to create a city of 300,000 people, and this is what you get, how do you think the city's going to be ran well with turnout like this? No. So this is what scares me about creating a city of 300,000 people overnight. When I say overnight, 3 years. It took Atlanta 150 years to get to the size of 400,000 people. And these proponents are getting angry because we are not allowed them to vote in 3 years. Are you serious? Now, to be fair, you got several communities that are in South DeKalb. Now, what we should be angry about is that they never came to us first to ask us if we want to be included in the city. So they want us to respect their right to have a vote to determine if their Green Haven should be created. But first of all, they offended our rights, but first of all, they're not asking us if we wanted to be included. So I find that very ridiculous for them to sit here tonight and say that they didn't have the right to vote. I was at that meeting that was at the Capitol the day that they were not there when they were supposed to be there. I was there. And the whole delegation, I stayed there from 12 o'clock to 5:30 because I was dedicated to making sure that the opposition was represented. So if they were so dedicated for their effort to create the city, they should have stayed there too. I stayed there the entire day, myself, along with a couple other people that were opposed to creating Green Haven. But their whole delegation of opponents of Green Haven was not there. Now let me move on to Stonecrest, because it's amazing to me. They want to change the charter within 8 months of their existence. They had been saying and telling people that they had been working on Stonecrest for 4 years. Now this is ridiculous. In 8 months, they need to change the charter. They didn't know what the mayor's salary was. I cannot believe this. I've never heard such ridiculousness in my whole life. And so this is what scares me about creating the city of Green Haven. If the city of Stonecrest, 50,000 people had been working on this for 4 years, they had not had the chance to get their charter together. And then you turn around and want the next year create a city of 300,000 people who have no idea what's in their charter. In fact, the mayor's salary in the Green Haven charter is even not specified. So, wait a minute, slow this process down. If it takes 10 years before we get a vote for Green Haven, it should. I call this Green Haven effort the Wizard of Oz city. And so, don't be pressure to give them a vote. In fact, it would be the biggest mistake in your legislative career if you give them a vote on Green Haven before we, as residents here in South DeKalb, understand what's in the charter. The opponents don't even know what's in the charter. In fact, half the mayor's section of the charter is not even included in the charter, and there are other things missing in the charter that they are not even aware of. So this thing needs to be slowed down, and if it takes 10 years, let it be 10 years before it happens. And one of the other options that should be given, so that I can finish quick, there are 6 districts in the Green Haven. Each one of them represents 50,000 people. That's 6 Stonecrests in one city of Green Haven. Do you understand what that means? We barely get enough people to come to our homeowners association. This is serious business because just like Stonecrest is talking about now, and they got the members and the mayors here. Once you create it, you stuck with it. We like to do. And if you're not a paid consultant or somebody that's on the staff or a commission, then you probably don't have somebody speaking in favor of the Stonecrest at this point. So this thing needs to be slowed down. Green Haven, if it takes 10 years, let it be. One other thing, 2 other things we need to do. We need to get a bill on the pension plan to make sure that all residents in DeKalb County are paying into the DeKalb pension plan fairly. If that doesn't happen, we need to file a lawsuit in court for that to happen. And that we have on 285 construction of the interstate bridge. It's taken, I think, 3 years. And last year, I believe it was, a couple of months ago, whenever it was, they were able to fix the 85 within 3 weeks.
Yeah, when that fire happened. Yeah, when that bridge collapsed.
3 weeks.
Yeah, that's
the point
right.
is,
that's right.
There's a disparity in the treatment in South DeKalb. I would agree with some of the opponents of cityhood. There are disparities in the South DeKalb that need to be fixed, and we are tired of our representatives and legislators not representing us and speaking out. A lot of us elected leaders are sitting on the fence. We need action, otherwise we're going to re-elect some other people into the position.
Simple. Yes, sir.
So my name is Samson Burrell. I want you all to remember that name, Samson Burrell. Recently, I attended a meeting out in Dunwoody. I think that's your district, Senator.
That's correct.
And I also went to a meeting out in Peachtree Corners, a community meeting. And let me inform you, when those community meetings, the room is packed. Mm-hmm. And they have an agenda that they present to their commissioner, that they present to their House rep and to their state senator. And I went back and did the research on Dunwoody and Peachtree Corners. You might want to go back and do the research on how those cities were formed. While we in South DeKalb fight over nickels, they're asking for dollars. There is an organization in South DeKalb called the South DeKalb Community Alliance. For years they've been talking about rail throughout South DeKalb, economical and development. They've been talking about better in the city year after year after year after year. And guess what? We're still talking about it. I moved to South DeKalb 4 years ago, and the same conversation that was said 4 years ago is being said today. The question is this: when do we stop the talking and ask our delegates and representatives to put their money in South DeKalb? But let me say this. I want you to remember this name again. Samson Burrell. March 2018, there is an organization that's coming to South DeKalb called the South DeKalb Community Alliance. They will do business different in South DeKalb. Tell the commissioners, tell the CEO, tell the delegates, the state rep, the senators, business will be done different for the people of South DeKalb. You've been left behind. You've been ignored. And guess what? A voice is coming to the people of South DeKalb. You're either going to do your business, or we will get somebody in office that's going to do the business of the people.
Thank you. All right.
Paul Jones.
There he is. You. That's your conscience.
Well, I'm glad my conscience is here because I've got dues of a question. I don't have too much disagreement from what I've heard other residents say. I'm trying to get over a cold, so if I get hoarse, I'm just going to do you all a favor, sit down. But since Representative Kendricks asked the question, how many feel we ought to get a raise? I like to qualify that question. I like to qualify that question in terms of how many of you, since we only have one senator here tonight, how many of you as elected officials, 16 House members, how many of you feel that you're more qualified, since we have all these problems in DeKalb and ethics is one of them, how many of you feel that you're better qualified to, as a group of 23 legislators, pick who's going to sit on the ethics board when we got a chief superior court judge and a probate judge currently? Somehow or another it fell through the cracks, Representative Holcomb, for a rep from the DeKalb Lawyers Association, because the original task force that Senator Miller sat on, there are no other reps here that sat on that. 3 senators, 3 House members, recommended that the DeKalb Lawyers Association have a rep. And I'm saying that to say that I think that might go towards the diversity that Representative Vernon Jones is adamantly pushing for, without placing you all in position as legislators to vote on something that's part of the local charter. So that's my question to you. And I'm going to have plenty of time between now and that, hog dinner, hog fest dinner, before you all meet in the legislature. Just ask you individually. I'm not going to put you on the spot tonight. I'm only asking the question. Why, what makes you feel you're better qualified, since we have 2 judges already? And I will close on that note. Why don't we consider and I'll mention that to Mr. Vernon Jones, let the DA make an appointment. Let the chief magistrate judge make an appointment, since their background is in law and deal with governance. That way, your hands are free, and you can work on trying to get a raise for other matters.
At one point, we did pass in the Senate, and Representative Holcomb had a bill in the House. We passed it in the Senate, sent it over to the House. It was, we would have outside third parties, not legislators, make the recommendations for the Ethics Commission. I believe it was unanimous in the Senate from the delegation. I know Representative Holcomb had the bill because Senator Parent basically used his bill. And we've passed it, and it's sitting over there. And Representative Jones said, no, we the representatives ought to be the ones to appoint the ethics people. And that's where the impasse is. So let's be perfectly clear what happened. Not all the representatives, but that's where it's happened at this point. The Senate passed a bill for what you're asking for, outside third parties, to make the recommendations for the Ethics Commission.
With what you just said, those outside third parties, I don't necessarily know if they're elected officials in DeKalb. So since I've read the Clerk of the House composite that lists all those 649 bills that were introduced during the session that just passed, and almost 300 Senate bills, if you don't remember tonight, Representative Holcomb, I'd like to call your office and get the number of that bill, and at least this, was it a local bill or a general bill?
It was a local bill.
Okay, if I could just get the number of that bill. Now,
You're referring to the ethics?
I'm referring to Senate Bill 273.
So I just want to throw this out there. And this was one of the things that I thought was important, that I was here from the community. We wanted to make sure that there was representation. So the challenge became whether or not it was constitutional for the outside groups to appoint. So basically to elect. And so basically they changed the wording. But what I wanted to, or what I like to put out here, and you guys in the community can have some conversation about it, in my opinion, the only way you can ensure that every area of the county is represented on that ethics committee is you choose someone from maybe a commission district or from a house district. Not that we make the recommendation, I'm not saying that, but where someone from South DeKalb should be represented, North DeKalb, Central DeKalb, and that to me is one of the things that I saw.
I got two other questions.
Okay.
Thank you. I've got two other questions, but in response to that, you just reminded me. Since you all want, or some of you, I won't say all, are interested in a raise, I've been coming to these forums for the past 5 years, pretty consistent, and this seems to be my home, the Port of Sanford facility. You get most of the people from South DeKalb to come here, and they do go to Maloukville, and they definitely don't go up to Doraville or Tucker. I find it interesting, food for thought, as you ponder on your interest in a raise. The issues you just brought up, you should have representatives from different parts of the county, and I heard Ms. Hardy say that's not how it works. I would love to see you as legislators, why not the first week of the legislature, since this January 15th will be the 50th anniversary of Dr. King's passing. I hate to say assassination.
Birthday.
Yeah, well, his birthday. He was 30. I know he was assassinated, but it puts you in a different mindset. I'll say that for some of the other Jim Crow comments. Okay, so I would love to see you all, since you all have differences of opinion on what many of us think, have another forum in a public location so we can get a better idea where you're coming from. Because I really want to know how many of you are in favor of voting for House Bill
644, which was almost the last bill dropped, and it was done to me for no other reason, and I've talked to Mr. Mitchell about Greenhaven, and I can see no other reason other than to give false hope to residents who, the vast majority, do not want to be part of a new city that's as large as our CEO's home county, Clark County, Rockdale County, and there's one more county in Clayton County. It's on 140 miles. So please give us a break by sharing your views instead of the 2 hours you give us for 3 sessions, and we do appreciate it. But come back out in the community so we can just watch you all, see how strong your arguments are, see what kind of research you've done on certain things. So my last 2 questions I will leave by saying, someone show me the evidence that it costs $200 million per square, or not square mile, per linear mile for heavy rail. And for light rail, since we have the streetcar Desire down in the city of Atlanta, at $100 million for almost 3 miles. So since many of us know Emory is licking his chops, trying to get some of that Atlanta money, then I would like for you all to have another forum or the same one. Let's throw that information out. Let's have the interim CEO, general manager from MARTA come out and her planners, because I don't want to get into the details of any kind of research I've done. But I know this much, whether it's light rail or heavy rail, the whole issue's been missed. We didn't even have to get the whole 12 miles. We could have been happy starting out with 6. So it's been a deliberate delay. And since we got reps from Stonecrest, and I was privileged enough to have one point out to me that MARTA owns some property in Stonecrest. That's where supposedly, I guess, the garage was going to go. But guess what? I found out going to one of those meetings the past month, the one at the Community Achievement Center, didn't make it, one in New Walker. MARTA has owned that property since 2007. So don't make me try to believe that MARTA doesn't have money. It could have at least bought the right-of-way for some of the parcels. I'm not talking about I-20. GDOT gonna sock it to them and get as much money from MARTA as they can. But no one will make me believe that. And I would hope that you all, in the future, would have forums before the end of February, since that's Dr. King's birthday in January, Black History Month in February. Dr. King's birthday in January, Black History Month in February. So us black folks feel like we don't never get out. We're like Roger Dangerfield. We don't get no respect. Thank you.
Thank you for publicly recognized. I appreciate you wearing the public today.
Thank you. Oh, it's no problem. I'm sometimes dealing with the public.
Go ahead. So, because we only have a few more minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mosby. Good evening. I'm Bernard Knight. I think most of you know me. I'm an attorney. My practice is in the city of Stonecrest. I was privileged to watch this creation of the city from start to finish and play a small role in that. I and my clients, some of my clients, were very enthusiastic supporters of the mayor and his cityhood effort. I would say that there are probably relatively few folks who know more about the way Stonecrest was created or the way it functions now than I. And certainly there is nobody from the business community who knows as much as I do, just because I spend the time there. At every city council meeting, over at City Hall, my practice is in local government, zoning, land use, economic development, so that's what I do. So what I have to tell you, I'm going to try to be brief, basically 3 things. The big one is this: Stonecrest is different. It was always intended to be different. If anybody believes that Stonecrest wasn't meant to be different, then they simply were not really paying attention as we move forward to create it. It is meant to be different. It should not be compared to Tucker, Brookhaven, or Dunwoody, or Smyrna, or Pine Lake, or any other city, we are different. We want, in the business community, and I think I'm on very firm ground in saying this, that I've never heard anybody in the business community out there, whether white or black, whether small business or large, say that they don't want a strong mayor. They do. And we are prepared for him to have a living wage, whether it's Mr. Larry or anybody else. We need that to bring Stonecrest up as quickly as we need to realize what we think is its full potential. If you hear anybody get up here in front of you and say that they don't want that, then I think the odds are that these are people who either were always opposed to the creation of the city from the get-go and spoke out quite vocally against it, or don't even live in the city. If you live in the city, if you supported it, if you know what's happening, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find anybody who really is against giving the mayor a full salary. The other thing I want to point out is that it is absolutely nonsense to say that the Amazon proposal was treated as a joke by the media. I don't know what Chicago said, the Chicago papers may have said, but I will tell you this. The main newspaper, the newspaper of record in Seattle, the hometown of Amazon, ran a front-page article on the Stonecrest proposal. It was not snarky. It did not treat it as a joke. It treated it as a serious proposal. So we made national news. We made international news. It may not happen. It may be a long shot. But as I think Ms. Emanuel said, it is something that has brought us to the national recognition, and something which I feel is going to serve us well in bringing in other companies. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you very much for being here tonight. I'm Beatrice Williams, and I'm a community activist and everything else. I do everything around here. And I'm really into schools and voting. And what I do want Stonecrest to succeed and be a successful city, because I live there. I also know that Jason worked very hard to get the city passed. But at this point, we don't have any comprehensive plans for development or anything. And their whole plan was to say that we got all these businesses already lined up to come to Stonecrest. I haven't seen not one business. And the reason they wasn't coming because they didn't want to deal with DeKalb County. Well, in 8 months, I don't see anything but Burlington, Bank, Bojangles, and what else? Maybe another dollar store somewhere. Every time I look, there's another dollar store. That won't pay for the kind of houses that I'm selling. So I need somebody to make some money that can pay for the kind of houses that I'm selling. Because it takes me just as much work to sell a $100,000 house as it costs for me to sell 1.5 million. And I'm used to corporate America. I had a contract to do relocation for AT&T. So I've sold some houses and made some money. But what they got planned, I can't see it. And I know in order to have a good community, you got to have some good schools. Nobody wants to come anywhere where the schools are failing. And so that's my major concern. I got a list of the failing schools in DeKalb County. I want these schools brought up to park. And I want us to talk about the homeowners association taking part in going to these schools. That's right. And educating these kids and bringing them up to snuff. Teachers are not enough. I have teachers in my family. I have a teacher in Maryland. It's in my family that teaches math. Not only do she teach it, the teachers around Washington, D.C. and Silver Spring and everything, how to teach math. She goes to Harvard in the summer and teach them how to teach math. And this little black gal graduated from Florida A&M. And at the top of her class, and it's always been there. Because she had a family that supported her and made sure she got whatever she needed. And that's what my son even wrote on Facebook. My mother's 80 years old today. Wish her a happy birthday. Because even when everybody was saying that he couldn't do nothing, that I always had his back. When he had the highest IQ in his class, and they're going to tell him he needs to take shop and make false teeth. Said, oh yeah? Not my child. Or he needs to go to the military. You don't know who you're fooling with.
All right.
So that's been my thing. As far as Stonecrest is, when we see some development, I will support you getting some money. But if you don't do nothing, you ain't getting no money. And you don't get no money. We have to do achievements every year when I was in the private sector. And if we didn't have no achievements that we done, we didn't get no money. So we had to do something to get some money. I don't want you to talk about it. I want it to already be in existence. So let's do that. And not only that, I got some voters initiatives that I'm going to come down there and talk. I want a senator and I want a representative to present these bills and walk them through. But I'm going to bring them to you so I can tell you what I want and give you the background for why I want it, and I'm going to see if you're going to run against it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Ms. B, what I did want to share with you today, the House Education Committee, we actually had an education summit at the Marietta High School, and they've created what they call the Marietta Life Center, and they've created wraparound services at the particular high school. So one of the initiatives that our chair for the House Committee has committed to is creating legislation around wraparound services. And this past session, we passed a bill that created a tax credit around innovation. So one of the things that I was sharing with people in my town halls that we had after the session, that was for, where do you go? Anyway, we do have meetings. But anyway, one of the things that I was encouraging our community, either if you had an education nonprofit or you had grant writers where you could work with the schools, because those grants were created to help schools that needed that assistance. But if we don't have the people in the building to take advantage of some of those opportunities, our schools will lose out. And I know NAACP has an initiative, but there's a grant that will provide resources for innovation, and the state of Georgia now is focused on early reading. So, so there's some things that we're going to legislate.
All right, thank you. Listen, we have 7 people in line. We got 10 minutes. So, I'll figure it out.
Jocelyn O'Neill. I live in the Greater Towers community. I've constantly been complaining about all the departments that we have and unincorporated we have. I came to Larry Johnson years ago and said, why don't we consider making it a city or whatever? Well, it never happened. We are constantly complaining about every department, recreation, sanitation, just constant. And the one thing that I look at when we look at the splash money, the cities appropriate so much money for the number of people in cities, and then the unincorporated areas get crumbs and stuff off the table. So we need to really consider that. And I think it's been over 100 meetings that Greenhaven has had. So for folks not to know.
All right, thank you. We go switch, yeah.
Okay. I did the math. I think if we all take 1 minute, it'll be all right. We might make it. But good evening, my name is Vicki Turner. Thank you all for being here. I'll meet you again tomorrow. I'm here as a citizen of Stonecrest, but I've enjoyed the dialogue, the information, because I think we can make better decisions when you're informed. But I couldn't just sit here when I hear a comment about the schools. I'm sorry, I'm going to take executive privilege for a minute. I just want you to know that we are working diligently. I'm on the school board, and I don't do it for the money. I don't do it for the money. My parents didn't send me to college and graduate school for that. not that money. Oh Lord, but anyway, I do it with all my heart because I do it for those children. But I want to announce that Barack Obama Elementary School has come off the list. I want to announce that Canby Lane Elementary School has come off the list. Yeah, you should be clapping, you really should. I want to announce that Clarkston High School has come off the list. Columbia High School has come off the list. Cross Keys High School has come off the list. Freedom Middle School has come off. And Mary McLeod Bethune has come off the list. And Smoke Rise Elementary has come off the list. We're working diligently to bring the list down to 0. But I like Miss Beatrice, and I want to get her name and number. It's going to take a community effort. The school board can't do it alone. It's going to take a collective energy from all of us to not, thank you so much, to come together. I promise you I'll call you. And come out and help us in our schools. I go to my schools regularly. I do what I call drive-bys, because I want to see what's taking place in the schools. I want to see how the floors look. I want to see how the children look. I want to see if the teachers are teaching. It's going to take that so that we can bring businesses, as I've told Mayor Larry. You can bring all the businesses you want, but if you don't have adequate schools that are performing at excellent rates, they will leave. So I am committed to help Stonecrest, to help the city of DeKalb, to bring our schools up to a level of excellence and make good use of my time as I make this little bit of money. Thank you.
I just want to share that the South High School had the largest increase in their CCRPI out of the whole county. So one of the things when we talk about our community, we sometimes don't talk good, especially about Lithonia High School, but they are working extremely hard and they keep, but their CCRPI, they still got work to do, but they did show out this thing.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Wayne Powell. I've lived in South DeKalb County for approximately 65 years, except during the time that I was in the military. I'm the president of the Belvedere Civic Club here in South DeKalb County. I would like to say thank you to all of y'all for coming to listen to what the community, what the public has to say to you, ladies and gentlemen. And to be real quick, the one issue that I wanted to bring up this evening is the scrap tire, fund. I will spare you the history. I've worked cleaning up with Commissioner Larry Johnson, trying to reduce blight in South DeKalb County for years. I've worked with Rivers Alive, Georgia, pulling scrap tires out of the rivers in South DeKalb County. I've worked with the South River Coalition, pulling scrap tires out of South River here in South DeKalb County. Scrap tires are a problem throughout the entire state, but it is especially a problem here in DeKalb County. Hopefully you've heard in the news about the big dump, over 10,000 tires. In the recent, all of us, we're all paying at least $2 per tire every time we go and buy a new tire, and this supposedly is going into the Scrap Tire Trust Fund. I have heard that recently this money has been diverted to the general fund. I do not know what, what you ladies and gentlemen, what purpose you have for the Scrap Tire Trust Fund for this upcoming session and for the future. But I would like to strongly urge all of you to support that the Scrap Tire Trust Fund money be used to remedy the problem of scrap tires, not only in DeKalb County, but throughout the state of Georgia. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Representatives, good evening. First of all, thank you for your service. That means a whole different thing to me now compared to last year. Thank you for your service. A couple of three things, and I'll make it brief. One is that the face of service is changing. how we serve our constituents in our community and the things that we're doing is changing. It's not the same as 20, 30 years ago. It's not the same as 5 years ago. So I'm sure that all of you, I'm counting, have at least, I have 3 out of my 5 local folks that are here, which we sort of, get together and talk and meet those particular things. I also have my city council members here. What I want to tell you is that the way we put this together for some years is that it has always been the intent of a strong mayor. It has always been the intent that it would be full-time corporate person. And as Mr. Knight said earlier, we are different. We are not Brookhaven. We are not Johns Creek. We did not come with $1 billion in business. As Representative Carter had mentioned, people have been working for years to try to get business to South DeKalb because we know in this area, when you bolster your business, your home taxes go down. So it's been a series of things that have been making us happen. Now, we approved our weight in platinum since we've been involved and since we've become a city of Stonecrest. Yes, I completely understand about what happens with regards to us presenting our charter changes to you all versus some of the things that we can do home rule. But there's a reason behind why we're presenting to you all versus home rule. Also, and I'll close with this, as a citizen, as a taxpayer, as a businessman, and as the mayor of Stonecrest, we have figured out what is good for us. We figured out what is good for us. So what is ended up happening is that each council person has had their meetings with their constituents. I've had a State of the City meeting. We've had enough meetings to fill up every church on the planet. So we hear and understand where we're going and what the citizens want. That's why you all are receiving emails at this time along the way we're receiving emails, because they have been involved and they know how us want Stonecrest to look and perform. And in closing, if anybody thinks that Amazon is not taking us serious, you are looking in the toilet, because those folks are taking us drop dead serious. Particularly since I've been invited to go to Seattle and speak to them on several occasions now, which is coming up in December. Even if we don't get Amazon, we have 50 companies that are looking at us for clean energy, solar farms, bolstering our industrial park, and for folks that think that we haven't done anything, and you're not coming to any meetings. You're not seeing where we are at this point. So, having said that, again, thank you for your service. I sincerely mean that. And just give us an opportunity to continue to win. And give us an opportunity to continue to be Stonecrest. And we'll deliver that to you all by the City Council and Mayor in a form of resolution. That's all we want. And we can meet at any time. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to talk about the Ethics Board. Steve Benny, I'm just a concerned citizen. I don't belong to any organization, except maybe the Communist Party. No. Mr. Holcomb and Mr. Miller, if you would introduce your Senate bill very quickly again on the Ethics Board. Let it be people who are elected, because that will help us cover ourselves if the court rules against us. The House, the representatives there, please pass it as soon as possible. Do not let Mr. Jones ruin it by putting in all of these little different things into it. Not good. I think that y'all should consider introducing something about a nonpartisan voter district board, because with the census coming in 2020, you're going to be redrawing the Senate and House districts. A lot of these districts are like 80% Democrat and maybe 55 or 56% Republican, and they're drawn that way so that the Republicans get an undue influence. If you want more influence, have the citizens draw the lines. Also, if you want more development here in South DeKalb, raise the minimum wage to $10 an hour. If people can buy stuff, people will come here. Have it so that it raises $1 a year. After that, if no business is lost. I would like you to decriminalize pot, because you ruin a lot of young black and white people's lives now when they fill out applications It doesn't ask you, have you been arrested 5 years ago or 7 years ago? It asks you, have you ever been convicted of a felony? So an 18 or 20-year-old who goes to jail for a small thing, their employment can be ruined for a long, long time. And finally, cash bail. Try to do something about cash bail. We got 139 women in DeKalb County who are in jail, who have not even gone to trial, but they can't pay their way out. They're going to miss their Christmas with their families and with their children because of this system. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Edwina Clanton, and I'm a proud citizen of the city of Stonecrest. I can't tell you how I'm grateful for the opportunity that I got to vote yes. I'm real proud of what we've done so far. When I moved to the city of Stonecrest, what was DeKalb County before, nothing had been done out there, and all I saw was tall grass and trash. I'm finally seeing a little difference now. And I'm asking, while everybody's trying to laugh at us, we're doing a great job out there. I don't know where people got that politicians run on a merit like the state and the federal government does, that they get paid as they do the best work, that they get merit raises. They don't. You all have been getting paid the same thing, whether you've done a good job, whether you perform well or not. I think that our mayor should be a strong mayor. We need economic development out there. And if we could get our parents closer to home, closer to their workplace, their homes, then we can get them closer to their children in school. If we can get good businesses there, they will put money into our schools and make them better. We got to take one step at a time, and we're asking that you listen to the citizens. All of the ones that don't like the city of Stonecrest, they come out with a vengeance. The ones that are in support of the mayor and the city changes, they're sitting at home, they're making the phone calls, but they don't come out like the people that are really against it. And I'm just saying, we are proud. Give us a chance and help us make the city work.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to be real quick. My name is Tara Hardy. I live in DeKalb County in the city of Stonecrest. The only thing I'm interested in is seeing the state reps and senators and the council people come together and educate the community on how the process works, so that we, for the sake of time, that we are asking the right questions to the right people. Because I come to some of these meetings and it's repetitive, and I don't totally know the process, and I know some of the residents don't know the process, but I think if we're educated on the process, you can draw the younger people to the meetings, they can get more involved, because, as you know, they're busybodies and they need to get things done.
I just want to mention real quick, Tara, I've been regularly having those meetings for the general community who's not as informed about how the process works. Teresa actually was at the last one that I had, so if you want to go to my website, RenitaShannon.com, and click the state updated link, you'll begin to get my emails, and then you'll know when the meetings are coming up.
Okay. Is it possible to get you all together with the commissioners, or does that happen?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, cousin. That's my cousin. Tara Hardy? Teresa Hardy?
All right.
Anyway, okay. Kid vote time. So we can get out of here. I'm Teresa Hardy. I wear several hats, and one thing I wanted to know, I was just going to sit here and listen because I have these same type of meetings coming up from an NAACP perspective. I too am concerned about this room not being filled because of the complaints that I personally receive due to lack of knowledge, as Tara has mentioned, and not knowing what the roles of our legislators are, or our commissioners, or our CEO. That is something that we need to do in the community, you guys. We can get together on that. But one thing I wanted to note is what we are doing in the community. We have 700,000 people in DeKalb County. We all want it to be great. But when we ask people to do something, it's usually the three of us, right? And when I say that is I'm really kind of getting, you know, a little about this, because what we should have done, community, is presented something to our legislators tonight that said this is our agenda for the South DeKalb. That's what we should have done. And I'm willing to do that with us as a group, because every time we try to come to them, we come with the same emotional stuff. Every year. I've been here 17 years, and I've seen this happen for 17 years. If we want change, we make the change. We make it easier for the $17,000 that they make. Okay? We want the change in education. We make the change for education. I know that for NAACP, we are working with the DeKalb school system, and because we wanted that list to dissolve, because we do not want a chief TEO or CTO or nobody coming telling us how to do our schools. We proved that with that bill. So how many people we got on that list that volunteered? It's a shame. It is a shame. It's less than 100 people. And our meeting is Saturday for the training. You cannot keep coming in here saying we want. And when we put it together, you know, we got a lot of organizations in South DeKalb, a lot of different organizations saying and doing some of the same thing. If we do not come together as one and make the change, we're not going to see the change. They are elected officials by us, but we are the ones that are empowered to do something. So if we want more, we're going to get more. Don't say we ain't gonna get it. We're gonna get it. We want education, good schools. We're gonna get good schools. If we want Amazon, we want Amazon. We're gonna go get these things together. And no more the backfighting. I just pray every day that we can come and unite to get a better DeKalb. And for our legislators, I love all of you, but I want to see the same thing when I come down to the Capitol. That we're all united on DeKalb County issues. DeKalb County issues we want to be united on. And good night.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.